It's been a while since I actually played Dark Souls 3, or given it that much headspace. Even though it's been my main source of content, I recorded it months prior, and I have very little to go off from my initial thoughts.
It's blank. What?
But I can still sit here and talk my talk about the game. I did this for Dark Souls 2, and the reception was moderate. I loved reading about everyone's own personal experience with the game, and I believe my video was somewhat enjoyed too.
So for one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened to swallow you whole.
I will also reinstate this one last time. These are my opinions of Dark Souls 3. Everyone's subject to their own views, so if there's something you disagree with, that's completely fine. Okay, I think I've covered all the bases, so let's get into this. At the beginning of my Dark Souls 3 journey, I had racked up a really decent amount of experience in the Souls genre. Having played the previous installments, I thought there was nothing more for me to learn. But one thing I have to bring light to is the lore of Dark Souls. I never really grasped it, and I don't intend to, because even though it's a piece of art in itself, I haven't put time into scouring the wiki and in-game items to understand how humans came to and why I've got to fight a bunch of racists. I have an unholy amount of respect for those who do put the time in, especially if it's to enlighten us commoners about it for entertainment purposes. But even still, I enjoyed this game and picked up enough relevant information so I didn't fall that far behind. One piece of lore I truly love is that the world started as a grey wasteland, and the last canonical fight, Gale, is in a similar environment where everything feels like it's back to its original state, but at the end of time. Just something I do look back on, because it's breathtaking to have these small details come full circle, and even a monkey like me can appreciate it. Anyways, on top of this, having Firelink Shrine and Anor Londo coming back was a thrilling experience. What happened? I was gone for 5 minutes! And even though my original thoughts of Dark Souls 1 were atrocious, a weird sense of nostalgia came over me when I revisited them, and it felt almost comforting to see familiar places once again, no matter the state they were in, cause yeah. And even some Dark Souls 2 references were brought into the world of 3, having what appears to be either Gilligan's or Macduff's corpse at the top of the profaned capital, and there's even some familiar paintings of Nashandra within Erythiel. As much as I hate that bit, it's something I felt needed to be appreciated, even if it's minor and not all that important. The bosses in this game were, as you'd expect, flawless. The gameplay felt more like Elden Ring, as the speed increase was a drastic jump when compared to 201, and I really liked it. And stamina recovers so much quicker. Man, I love it. For me personally, most of the bosses in 3 would fit into my top 10, and this is including Sekiro, so I was thoroughly impressed. The difficulty spike was also unexpected, I must admit. I went in thinking quite highly of myself after beating both the previous games, and thought it wouldn't be much harder. Yeah. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's the hardest Souls game I've played. At the time, that statement would stand, because thinking back to a lineup of Midir, Nameless King, Sister Frieda, and fucking Gale, yeah, back to back is kind of wild. But with the likes of Consort Radahn before the 1.14 patch, and everything else within Elden Ring, yeah, it's not a fair comparison. Maybe that's just for me. We may find struggle in what others find enjoyable, and vice versa. And that's the magic of Souls, the unexpectancy that a really simple boss can pose a significant challenge depending on the player and the playstyle. It's truly an incredible dynamic, and one of the main reasons I fell in love with the series. But all in all, Dark Souls 3 had some of the most memorable bosses for me. Even though I didn't play it when it originally dropped, I found a sense of enjoyability in both the fights and the aftermath, at least for most of them. Right, I didn't want to keep this video long, as there's not much to say that hasn't been said before. It's not a revolutionary video, as I think the strong majority who have played 3 can say it's the best of them. That's just kind of a given. I do not have anything controversial to say. So, overall, my experience with Dark Souls 3 has been nothing short of a thrill. I love the highs and the lows this game had to provide, but most importantly, the build up to each and every boss was actually fun. Many probably want to hear of my negatives, and I hate to disappoint you, because I only have one thing I dislike: the Undead Bone Shard. I really struggle with navigation, which is why I despise it.
Me good.
I don't know. It's much like any other flask upgrade, but I felt like I explored significantly more in 3 than the other 2, and yet I only found 6 or 7 maybe. It's mainly because I get sidetracked and found it difficult to go astray from the main story path, which in turn caused me to miss some important things. My hatred fell down to my own fault, nothing to do with the game itself, and everything I disliked in the previous installments had been improved almost tenfold, the combat being one of them. The greatsword, my beloved, had the best moveset out of all the games so far, which I think is a respectable take. I tried the Wolf Knight Greatsword, and as great as it was, I felt symbiotically connected to the Greatsword and always went back to it, being a grumple and all. My playthrough ended almost bittersweetly. I didn't have any overcoming emotions or nothing, but I felt like I'd climbed the Everest of Souls and could finally rest at the top. And I truly thank Miyazaki for creating such a difficult climb. Dark Souls has shown me to find enjoyment in the struggle and to overcome it after failing and failing again, something I'm truly grateful for. But at the end of the day, perfection is subjective. Some may really hate this game and have their reasons for it. I cannot place judgment on those who at least attempted playing. My 2 cents shouldn't sway the way you feel about the game, or even the series. I just like to ramble about stuff I enjoy and posting it to the internet. But with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed, and thank you to anybody who watched the full thing. Check out my playlists for all the Dark Souls content. I'd really appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, because you're
so supreme.